Hi, everyone, and welcome to this pre-concert live stream hosted by the Omaha Symphony and KVNO. I'm Sherry Kennedy Brownrigg from KVNO. With us tonight, two people I've been dying to meet for a long time. So we have Omaha Symphony Concertmaster Susanna Gilmore. Hello, Susanna.
Hello. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on with your with your live stream. It's wonderful. And Principal Percussion, Rob O'Brien from the Omaha Symphony. Rob, it is great to be with you tonight.
Yes, thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, and this is so much fun. And we're going to be talking about this Friday's performance of Bach, Mozart, and Martinů. And so welcome to everybody who's joining in, and this is really fun. So the program for this Friday's concert is absolutely incredible. As I started to dive into the preparation, the deeper I got, the more I just got so excited about the program, the pieces that were chosen and how they all fit together. And I really am excited to hear what each of you has to say about them, because this is what looks to me, I'm not a symphony performer. I'm just on the radio and classical music, and I'm a huge fan, but it looks like a very eclectic grouping of works, and I can't wait to see how they all fit together. The works selected for the program span the centuries, from Baroque to modern day, and such an innovative pairing of all the instruments. So this is really fun. The very first question that I have, and Rob, I think I'll direct this to you, is let's begin with how, the works were chosen for this concert.
So our artistic administrator, Danny Meyer, she kind of reached out to me and just kind of asked if I had any ideas. And so I got to it's fun for me to sort of dig around and see what's out there as far as mixed percussion, chamber music, percussion, and other instruments. And so I came up with a few pieces that I had played before, and a new one that I had heard about and had kind of wanted to play. And then in some more digging, I found out that there's a very famous xylophone soloist from the early 1900s who was actually born in Omaha. And so I kind of thought I wonder if we could do that on here too, because that would be pretty cool. I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to participate in that and have Danny and the symphony go with a lot of those. So I'm very excited. Yeah.
Yeah. Susanna, what do you think? Anything that you have to add about that? Because we'll get into George Hamilton Green in just a moment and some of the others. But what do you think about this program and the origins of it?
The origins were both intentional and accidental. Is probably the best way I can describe it. We had two of these pieces we were planning to perform in October. We knew we were building a program in October around Vivaldi and one of the Bach Brandenburg concertos. Yeah. And I was hopeful that we could bring in our principal flute for a piece, partly because I knew of this 20th century piece by Martinů that involved harpsichord. I thought we were already, bringing out the harpsichord, and it was going to be a collaborative part of the other two pieces. And I thought it would be nice for the audience to hear it in a different context. So we brought in Maria Harding for the Martinů, and she suggested the wonderful Bach trio that's based on the musical offering fugue. And then the day before the performance, she had to go into quarantine.
Oh, wow.
Because of an exposure, which I'm sure many of the listeners have experienced in the course of the year. And so we did a lot of punting. Our violist and double bass player played, they shared one of the Bach cello suites on no notice. So they alternated movements of performing that. That's how we made that program work. So this week, we are very, very happy to feature Maria Harding on the flute, finally. so the Martinů was there and the Bach was there. That didn't happen in October. And she was willing and interested to play one of the Mozart flute quartets, which is a sparkling, virtuosic, just lovely classical work for flute. So we had this group of instruments available, and we wanted to involve the percussionists. And Rob came up with these amazing suggestions that kind of took, it kind of took the program that was already colorful and diverse and kind of blew it wide open into Technicolor or something. I mean, it's with this fascinating trio of pieces for percussion instruments and violin that are in the center of the program.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear how all of these come together too. So I love those stories, the behind the scenes sort of thing. And, you talked about, Susanna, some of the different components of it and some of the instrumentation that will be featured. And for those who may have not looked at the program, you can always see that, of course, at omahasymphony.org. But it's really chamber music. And so for someone who may not be familiar with chamber music, how would you explain it to someone who may be interested in attending and has never attended before? And give them your best pitch on why they should come to this program. And I'll open that up for either one of you.
Do you want me to start? I'll start.
Yeah, I think you should start. Yeah.
Okay, I'll start. All music is music. The difference between chamber and orchestral music is that it's just music with fewer people playing. And the word comes from differentiating the size of the room that it would have been performed in when it was composed in the 17th, 18th, 19th century. So it would have, the smaller groups would play in a chamber or in a room versus di camera, versus the church, or versus, in the 19th century, the big concert hall. So it's a much more intimate experience. It has provided the Omaha Symphony during this time of the pandemic an opportunity to keep playing a lot, but using a smaller group of musicians, socially distanced, in our large hall in the beautiful Holland Center. It actually just it has solved a lot of the challenges that the full orchestra has faced trying to work within COVID safety parameters in the big hall. And it's the same great composers. The music takes you on as much of an emotional journey as any orchestral piece, but you get to hear the individual voices of the musicians playing. And the audience will get to hear musicians that don't always play solos in the orchestra. Or if they do, it's in the context of a large atmosphere of sound, so it's not always as clear. So it's just a way to kind of move up the camera and focus closer on individual players and particularly the individual sounds and capacity of different instruments.
Very beautiful way to put that. And, I love the full symphony, no doubt about that. But I have to say that myself, I'm actually very partial to chamber music.
Me too.
Because of the reason, I was just going to ask you that question, but because of what you just said, Susanna, was that you get to hear the voices, the individual voices. They are magnified and they stand out. And there's something about it, the intimacy of it, that is so moving. And, there's always incredible, moving, emotional experiences that happen with the full symphony, but they're different. They're different than they are with chamber music. So I'm curious for both of you, how does it affect you personally when you're playing chamber music, just with the chamber pieces that you're playing with fewer people versus, the larger orchestra?
I would say for me, being in the percussion section in the orchestra, we're almost always in the back of the orchestra, in the back of the concert hall. So it's really a different energy in terms of performing and in terms of preparation, rehearsing. When I am kind of brought to the front in a smaller ensemble, things are more exposed. But the instruments, which are perhaps the same instruments we would play, are treated differently. As more solo voices for longer periods of time. So it's kind of a nice change of pace. It's definitely different, but I also enjoy it almost as much as playing in the big group.
Yeah.
One of the things I appreciate too is the interpretive freedom of playing chamber music. And I may feel about orchestral music slightly differently than Rob, because primarily I'm part of a large group of voices singing as one in the string section. And we are trying to receive the input from the conductor and reflect his or her intention with the music in partnership, but we are also, always going with the conductor's interpretation. So it's a kind of a different degree of ownership and self-direction when it's a smaller group.
Yes.
With no conductor.
If I may, yeah, I agree. It's sort of the conductor of an orchestra to me is it sort of has the role of being kind of general artistic management, just so that there's one voice in a room of possibly 100 people to kind of focus the direction of where the product goes artistically. But in terms of what Susanna and I have done this week, it's kind of both equally up to us. I feel as to artistically how we want to go, artistic changes and things like that. So it's kind of nice to have a more hands-on approach to that. It's a different thing. It's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We got a great question from Mary Ann. She says, how do you feel that the Holland Center handles the change to a smaller group as compared to the larger group, the larger orchestra?
I can say something, and then Rob can tell his experience. The first time we played chamber music in that hall, maybe ever ourselves, was in October. And it was out of necessity. I was involved in a performance of the Beethoven Septet, and I was apprehensive. And at the first few days, it felt like we were this small little group in the middle of this enormous space. I don't know. It was a very kind of lonely and I don't know. I was very concerned about it, but by the end of our humans were so adaptable, and we got used to it, to the challenges of the space. And now I don't give it a second thought, really. I mean, we've done this now multiple times this year, and we've really come a long way on the learning curve. And I think it's working. It's working surprisingly well. Now, I would prefer to have the audience closer and to feel a closer connection for the chamber repertoire. But that too, I've gotten used to. And I think the acoustics are working. Rob, what has been your experience?
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's being a percussionist, I think, maybe if you heard that there was percussion chamber music on this concert, you might be thinking loud drums or something, but it's not that at all, actually. And we have a very nice hall that's very suitable to symphonic music, but is designed very well to clearly kind of present the product that we prepare, and I think our musicians are thinking of. The hall kind of really helps with that and amplifies it. So, I guess.
Yeah.
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 It sounds great.
Well, Susanna, for the record, the audience would like to be closer to you as well. So I'll speak for the audience on this one.
Yes. Well, hopefully we can continue playing chamber music beyond the pandemic in more intimate settings. But I love the question, because what it actually gets at is that there is another instrument present in all of these pieces that we play, and that's the space.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the other instrument that we're collaborating with. And so it has a tremendous impact.
The Holland seems to be a good partner.
It is.
It is.
It's a great partner.
I've sat in almost every area of the Holland, just getting different tickets through the truncated season that we're going through right now, and then having season tickets before that. And, there's not a bad seat in the house. And so, you can really hear everything so beautifully. And I remember the first concert that I went to where some of the brass was, way up top, where normally there might be a choir. Mm. And I thought, oh, wow, we could hear perfectly. And it was the separation of the sounds was really, really good. And so it was just
great.
wonderful.
I'm glad to hear it. I don't know how the brass play up there, but I'm glad that they seem to be nailing it and mastering it, because it's creating a lot more space options for us.
Yeah, and it's really kind of fun. I mean, I really had to smile and chuckle the first time I saw it, and then it's perfectly normal now. When they go back down on the floor, it might seem weird to us next time. But you mentioned something, Susanna, and I want to get this question from Les. We'll play off that. He asked, will chamber music continue to be performed through summer and into the fall?
That's a fantastic question. I'm in. I'm all.
I hope so.
I'm all in. Yeah.
Hey, Les, you've got the four of us. All right. So
yes. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Well, let's, if we could, get into some of the individual pieces here. On the program, there are what you might call non-traditional pairings of instruments. So what can audiences expect to hear from some of these pairings?
I suppose you're referring to the percussion pieces, right?
I might be. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first piece we're playing, or the first piece that I'm involved in, is Log Cabin Blues by George Hamilton Green, which is actually, it's just a ragtime xylophone solo, but my colleague Derek Dreyer is going to be adding some percussion, basically like an earlier form of what we know as a drum set now. It's kind of just a fun little, just a fun little presentation of, kind of fun music. Is there's piano accompaniment. There's also, a marimba band accompaniment, but we're just going to choose to do it this way. And this one is the piece that has the added fun little fact that George Hamilton Green is from Omaha. He's born here in 1893.
Did you know that when you were choosing that piece?
I found that out like a year ago. So I had actually already moved here, but if I may, if you'll indulge me about George Hamilton Green, I would say if there's a Mount Rushmore of classical percussion, he would be on it. And a lot of it has to do with his instruction course for xylophone. So being a xylophone soloist around the turn of the century in 1910, 1920, it isn't as strange as it seems, given the fact that, there's two reasons. The xylophone was kind of the cheaper option. If your family couldn't afford a piano, you could buy a xylophone. And if you think about also the recording quality of that era, what I would say bad, but the xylophone was the only instrument really that came out of the recording basically sounding the same. So it's very popular. So that kind of led him to be really a celebrity and kind of a rock star on the xylophone. And this book, to prove to you how popular it is, this book is 50 lessons that he wrote in 1924 that were they were mail order lessons, and they were $1 each. So this book in 1924 was $50. So that's just how popular the xylophone was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was amazing to read about his life too, and all the people that came here to Omaha to play with him. and to study with him. And just like you said, if there was a Mount Rushmore of percussionists, he would be on it. He was really, really highly regarded.
Yeah.
So, and I hadn't known that until I started to look up and prepare for this discussion. So, what a treat to find that out.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Well, but there's another one too that involves the violin and toy piano. And that, of course, is from Andy Akiho, Hammers for Violin and Toy Piano. Tell us a little bit about that one, Rob.
Yeah, so Hammers was originally an interlude that he wrote as part of his percussion concerto, which premiered like a year and a half ago or something with the Oregon Symphony. And it's just basically the concertmistress or concertmaster with a toy piano, and there's a glass jar that you also play. This is what I'm using, and it's just a fun little 2.5 minute piece. But Andy is really a brilliant and creative composer and artist. It's kind of unlike anything I've ever heard, I have to say. So it's very exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, this whole program, Rob, seems to be a bit of a percussionist dream. Is that true?
Yeah, I would say so. I'm very lucky to be a part of putting something like this together and having the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, and Susanna, I can see that it's exciting to you as well too, because it's got some of the the heavyweights that we know, Bach, Mozart, Martinů, and all that, and some modern composers who are still with us, and people that you would never expect to put together, and just the wonderful way that this whole program is unfolding. I wonder, when you think about Friday night coming and you're actually performing, how do you think the audience is going to be reacting to each of these pieces, as you go from one to another?
I think that they are in for a very interesting and exciting experience. It certainly is for me as an artist and a participant, but I expect that people are going to be really fascinated by what they're hearing. It's so diverse. You have the Martinů trio, which is neoclassical. It's basically tonal, but there's all this sort of mid 20th century pungency in the harmonies and wit. And then the beautiful Bach, but extremely chromatic and serious. I would think the Bach is the most serious piece on the program. Mm-hmm. It's a very substantial piece, and it's a big piece. And then there is this very kind of rapid fire 4 pieces involving percussion and violin that will really demonstrate colors and sounds that people are not necessarily expecting when they come. The piece with toy piano, the Akiho, I don't have a single long note. Every single note is short, and the vast majority of the notes are plucked or hit. But it has a really great, exciting kind of grooving rhythm, and it's super short. And even the Paganini, which sounds like it will be what people expect, it's not, because Rob is playing the accompaniment to the melody. He's playing what would have been on guitar. He's playing it on vibraphone.
Oh, yes.
And it's surprisingly, it's beautiful. It works beautifully. The Mozart will be very Mozart and playful and virtuosic for the flute. And then the Mark O'Connor, the arrangement that some of our strings will be doing of his Appalachia Waltz, it has a very sort of sentimental, nostalgic quality to it, but it's And I think in some ways it'll link to was it a ragtime that's earlier in the program, in terms of utilizing something that's sort of quintessentially from this country. And I think, there may have been some accidents involved in the actual programming based on the what happened this fall, but I think it's coming together really, really well.
Yeah. Well, and the two at the end too, the Mozart, his first flute quartet, this one in B major, and then the Appalachia Waltz. Somehow the two of those at the end just sort of bring it full circle. And, there's such a grounding in both of those. And, the flute quartet is, well, stunning. It's stunningly beautiful. And the Appalachia Waltz, with just the incredible emotion that it evokes, that I think the two of them, it's sort of, you've got some real crescendos in there and some real delight, and then you pull out the emotion. I think it's really going to be an incredible experience for the audience that attends. So everybody who's watching right now, if you don't have your tickets, you got to get them, omahasymphony.org. But we're not ending. We've got more here. I've got some more questions. But one of the questions that I had for you was, what's your favorite piece? And this is for both of you. Tell me your favorite piece, and then which one is going to be the most challenging or has been the most challenging for you?
My favorite piece on this program?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like your favorite child, isn't it?
Yeah. They are. They really are so different, and they bring their own challenges and excitements. Like I said, I think the Akiho is certainly the most creative, one of the most creative things I've heard recently. And when I bought the piece, I bought the score before I had heard the piece, because I knew it would probably be pretty good. I played some of his other stuff, and I certainly wasn't disappointed. So I'm very excited, and I'm very happy that I have the opportunity to do this piece. So I guess I would have to pick that one. Yeah.
Okay. Susanna?
I think I agree. I mean, I was very intrigued from the minute I got the suggestion to do that piece. I'm a curious person, and I do like to walk through the doors of trying new techniques and pushing myself in different directions. So I'm enjoying that a lot. But I think every piece is fantastic on the program and has something, each piece has a lot of merit.
Yeah. Rob, how many different percussion instruments will you be playing?
I'll be playing, I guess, technically 4, a xylophone, vibraphone's on 2 pieces, and then toy piano, which I guess I'll classify as percussion instrument in this case, and there's a glass jar, that I got from my kitchen. So
yeah. Well, yeah. we see that little toy piano behind you. Is that you're playing on Friday night?
Yep, this is the one.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Well, Susanna, back to you for a moment. You're accustomed to playing a leadership role as concertmaster, and we talked a little bit about how these particular works were chosen for this program. But in general, when you have chamber concerts, what is your role in choosing the works?
Particularly for Omaha Symphony, or for this, I have enjoyed being in sort of a consultant advisory role in some of the program planning for this season, particularly with the chamber music. So if my opinion is asked, if I'm asked to do some brainstorming, I love to do that. I frequently get lost down YouTube rabbit holes, listening from one thing to another, and discovering repertoire. So I enjoy that very much. Our artistic administrator, director of artistic Danny Meyer is doing a lot of the programming, and she's a great collaborative person who will reach out to the different musicians and ask them for suggestions. And so it's really it's a collaborative process, which is what chamber music is as well. It's all about collaboration, and in the rehearsal process, it's it's very much a democracy.
Tell us a little bit. Oh, Rob, go ahead.
No, I totally agree. Yeah.
You're here. Yes. Well, and this is for either one of you, but tell us a little bit about the process in preparing for this particular concert. Susanna, you talked about it being a democracy. So how do you all come together, and what's that process like?
We, in general, for the way the symphony is structured, we do not have very much rehearsal time at all. And so everybody individually prepares knowing that we're going to have very limited rehearsal time. So there's a ton of advanced preparation. So like if this week, it's like the iceberg that you see over the ocean is what the musicians are doing together this week. But there's been this massive amount of prep that happens before this week. And I personally, I always try to understand what's going on in the score. So I just understand how all the parts fit together. When it's not so applicable to the percussion violin collaborations, but in the Martinů, Bach, which I'm not on, but I know I've played the piece before, and the Mozart, like understanding, your roles are constantly shifting. So, when are you supporting the melody? When are you accompaniment? When are you, just what your function is? It's important to know that. So a lot of score study in addition to practicing individually before the first rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very well said. I think, like I said, the artistic management aspect of, to me, rehearsing is equally distributed among all the players in the ensemble. So the more prepared everybody comes, is just the more fun it is, and the better the product is. There's also, there's not a conductor to follow, so you have to be pretty prepared. But it's fun,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it like for you when you come together the very first time and rehearse a program together, when you've been studying the score, you've been rehearsing yourself, and then all of a sudden you can be with everybody else who you'll be performing with? What is that like?
It's very exciting. It's there's a level of excitement, and I think there's a sense sort of just I feel it's just like, okay, like measure one, let's just start and we'll go and we'll work through what we need to do, and yeah, it's a very positive, and it's a lot of fun.
Susanna, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on the piece. There's always that, is the chemistry going to work? Have I really done enough preparation? Is Rob going to fire me for not being able to play the rhythm? No. I mean, I definitely am driven by, this conscientious desire to not let anybody down, including myself, and be ready for that first rehearsal. That's partly why we are who we are, why we do what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the two of you may have been asked this question multiple times, so forgive me if you have, but in this time of COVID, where there's so much distancing, to be able to be on stage with your fellow musicians and perform together and bring the audience, because that's what you love to do, is you love to bring this music to the audience, and we love to hear it and receive it. But what is it like for you to be able to do this when you know so many symphonies across the US and even around the world are not performing, but here the Omaha Symphony is?
I give thanks all the time. I am so grateful to be doing this, because it really is it's a purpose that drives me and gives my life profound meaning. And when everything stopped last March, and there were no concerts for for months and months and months, it was a really tough time for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
I missed it so much. So I'm grateful, even if I only see what people look like from, the top of their nose to the top of their heads. If I only see their eyes. And I feel that same way about the audience. Even though people are spread out, the Holland is, I'm in the orchestra, I'm right up at the front, so I can see the expression on many people's faces.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell that we are connecting to them. And I don't care if there's just one person sitting there. That's who I'll play for. That's why we do what we do.
I remember the night that Maestro Wilkins, when he looked out at the crowd and he said, "So this is what a full house looks like in a pandemic," very poignantly, because everybody was moved around, and it's really something. Rob, I'd love to give you a chance to answer that too.
Yeah, it's this job, this career is extremely rewarding, and it's almost always more so rewarding the more effort you put in. So like Susanna said, when we kind of stopped in March, and we were just sort of in limbo of like, will we go back soon? Will it be till the fall? Can we even go back in the fall? It's tough to not work in this sort of collaborative job that we have with the same people you see every week, to just all be separated and not making art with your colleagues.
Yeah.
So our management has done lifted heaven and earth to get us to the point where we are playing almost every week, and they've done an exceptional job. So like I said, the more effort you put in, the more rewarding it is. And it's quite touching, honestly, that we're in the position we are to be doing this during this time.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, we have another question here. This is from Marianne. And did any of the pieces on the program end up in a different place musically than when you began rehearsing them? Fun question.
That is a great question.
Yeah, that's good. I would say Log Cabin Blues definitely did, because I had prepared it, a couple of years ago, but it was just myself playing, which is, I didn't want to just play it as a solo. I wanted to involve Derek, who is oftentimes you'll see him playing drum set with the group. And so I said, hey, do you want to add whatever you want? And so he came to the first rehearsal kind of with some unexpected things that I wasn't even expecting. I think people, myself, we think of drum set and we think of a picture, and he took into account the historical elements of the time, around the 1920s, the instruments that early drum set players would use. So it's really just bass drum, snare drum, a small splash cymbal, some wood blocks, cowbells. It kind of gives it really a nice playful added element to it. It was really fun and kind of surprising, and that's kind of what it's all about. That a piece like that's what it's all about, I think.
Oh, that's going to be a lot of fun then to see the finished product and see, how it evolved to where it is. So, well, as we look at the time here, it's about 6:40, and Rob, I know you have rehearsal tonight. So,
yeah.
Excuse me. I want to thank everybody for being with us tonight. This has been so much fun, and Rob O'Brien, the principal percussion for the Omaha Symphony, and Concertmaster Susanna Perry Gilmore. This has really been a treat to be with you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My pleasure.
Thank you. This was fantastic. I enjoyed talking to all of you.
Yeah, it was so much fun, and we cannot wait to see the concert on Friday night. So again, you saw that scroll there. Tickets are still available, omahasymphony.org. So please go there and get your tickets. So thanks so much. I'm Sherry Kennedy Brownrigg from KVNO. Good night, everybody. Take care.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.